Okay, these are what we call gasifiers. This is the Hunter, and this is the Backpacker. And a gasifier is a stove that actually gasifies the fuel, and it can use any kind of organic material, and actually breaks it down into its gaseous form and burns the gas, and you get a very clean burn. You get you get a little bit of smoke initially when you start the stove because you're burning some wood, and you can use various twigs and things that you can find in the wood, so it's kind of nice. You don't have to carry something like white gas around with you. Here's some twigs we're breaking up here. You can see we got some bark, and you can do various things. You can even use chunks of wood as big as this, you know, in the bigger one. And here we have a combination of barks and twigs and some broken up pieces of wood that I had laying around here. So I'm going to go ahead and load up the stoves here, and we'll get ready to light them up so we can get a visual. We're going to boil a little water and cook some eggs on these two stoves here. So it's best sometimes to put the smaller stuff in first if you can, but it doesn't matter that much. You want to kind of compress it down a little bit, as tight as you can, but not too tight. There needs to be some air holes. I got a little fuzz in there that doesn't necessarily need to go in there. Either that or it's some insulation of some kind. So we can put all of this stuff in there, and you can see this one doesn't take that much. And you break up some of the bark and put in some of the bigger chunks of wood in there, and kind of push it down in there and tighten it up a little bit, so on and so forth. And we're going to do the same with the bigger stove here, and get this going here. And this is what's nice about these, is your fuel is everywhere you go, your main fuel. Now I recommend using a little lighter fluid to get these started. They start a lot easier that way. They are a little bit hard to start if you just use some tinder to get them started, but they can be started without any kind of accelerant at all. But they are harder to start that way. So throw a couple of big chunks in there, and maybe put a few more around the sides here. Get that going around there, and get it going here. So the tighter you can get it, but leaving some air so the air can go through the wood or the fuel, the better. You don't want it too loose, but you don't want it too tight either. So, okay, now we got the stoves full and packed, and you can put as little or as much as you want in there. If you just need a quick fire, you can put a little less in there. If you want a little bit longer burn, you can do that. And here we're going to put a little lighter fluid on them, get them started. Don't need a lot, and you could carry a little thing of lighter fluid around with you. But like I said, if you don't have any lighter fluid, or you run out, if you're out somewhere prolonged and you run out, you don't need it. You can do it without it, but it's tougher to light, especially if your wood's a little damp. We see that one go right off the bat there. Now this one. So you get a little smoke initially when they start, and once they get going, then you get almost zero emissions there. And once it starts gasifying, and once it starts gasifying, then you can start cooking. Technically, you can start cooking now, I suppose, if you want to, but you want to make sure it's gasifying. That way, it won't go out on you. Okay, now we're going to try and heat up some water on the Backpacker here, and we'll get that going. Okay, and we're going to fry some eggs on the Hunter here, and get that going. Put a little oil in there, get the oil to heat up, fry an egg on there. Now we're getting a little whiff of smoke there, which means you got a piece of wood burning, or sometimes if you fill it a little too high, it takes a little bit to get it all to start gasifying. But still, it's just like a wood cook fire. So you can see some steam coming off of the water now. It's getting heated up, and we're going to cook an egg here in this one. And see that? It's frying already, and should only take a few minutes to get an egg cooked and get some hot water going for oatmeal or coffee or whatever it takes, and just like that. So this thing is really handy for, instead of having to start a fire and let it burn down to some coals and putting a pan over it with a grate or something on it. In about 15 minutes or so, you can be, eating a couple of eggs or whatever. Okay, the egg is cooking pretty quick here, and I'm going to flip it over here and see if we can flip it over without busting the yolk. It's going to be done here in just a minute, and that water is probably hot enough to get some instant oatmeal or some coffee or whatever. And we'll let it go a little longer and see if it gets hotter. Okay, egg is ready. There you go. Pretty quick. Some breakfast before you go out hunting, or something quick when you go back. And you can see it's gasifying now, the bigger chunks. One point is when you do put in the bigger chunks of wood, sometimes it takes a little longer for it to start gasifying because the bigger chunks. So, if you get medium chunks, about 1.5 inches to 2 inches or so or less, it'll start gasifying quicker, but then also those will burn up quicker too. So, looks like we're also ready for some coffee or instant oatmeal. You can see the steam coming off there. And okay, as you can see, it's still gasifying now, and if you want, you can feed some more stuff into it. It might smoke a little bit as the wood heats up and starts to gasify, but again, it'll clean up. So it's a very efficient way, and you can use very little amount of wood, very little impact on the environment around you. You can pick up twigs and brush and branches and junk that are around you. Don't need to have an axe or anything like that. And you can cook some meals, heat up some water, whatever you need to do in a reasonable amount of time. So if you see, you can look right down in here, right down in the tops of these, and see the gasification process. You can see the wood is kind of turning to charcoal, and what's burning on top is the gas mainly. You get a little carbon monoxide, like now we're getting a few whiffs of smoke here and there, and on this one here, you're getting a nice clean burn. You can see the big chunks of wood in there. They're kind of charcoal, but the gas is still burning, and they'll burn right down into ash and leave very little impact. And the ash is actually good for the soil if you dump it out. So that's it. That's how the gasification stoves work. They're cheap, they're easy, and they work well. And you don't have to carry fuel like white gas around with you. I do recommend you carry some lighter fluid with you, because it's just easier to light, but you don't necessarily have to. But it will be harder to light, especially if your wood is not pretty dry. If it's in the wintertime and the wood's a little damp, then you can still do it, but it's just easier if you have a little bit of lighter fluid with you.